Let me bring in Stephen Moore, who is a conservative economist and also a member of Donald Trump's White House Council to reopen the country. Stephen, it's fascinating seeing these protests from the US. Right now, America feels like it's in a very different place to the UK. But I do wonder if that's going to change, Stephen, given that we have the Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon saying today that social distancing policies might be in place in the UK until the end of the year or perhaps longer. Now, you're very clear, aren't you? You believe the lockdown shouldn't go on beyond May the 1st.
Hello. Great to be with you, by the way. And I do believe that we need to get the economy reopened as quickly and safely as possible. And my advice to the president has been, let's have kind of a hard deadline at May 1st, because we're just seeing a ravaging of our society and our economy. And this shutdown is causing incredible hardship across the country in ways that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. And millions of businesses that are shuttered, not just for now, but for good. Bankruptcies are increasing. Suicide rates are increasing. Drug abuse, child abuse, alcoholism, all the things that are associated with an economy that is locked down and with 28 million people unemployed. So we can do this in a safe and effective way. Certainly, look, we have something like 12 cities that really account for about 90% of the deaths associated with coronavirus. So, those probably need to be shut down for a bit longer. But most of the country could be, with the right safeguards, opened up, and we can get Americans back to work, and we can get stores opened and businesses up and running, because the consequences of not doing that are just catastrophic for our economy. We're talking about, at least a year of severe hardship with, by the way, the people who are being damaged the most by this are the people at the very bottom of the economic ladder who are in food lines right now, going hungry, don't have a paycheck, have no income. That is really, really painful for the least among us.
Are you not concerned, though, that there's no evidence that the US is over the peak of this crisis? Over 42,000 people are dead. If you reopen the economy with a hard deadline on May the 1st, isn't there the chance that that death toll spirals into the six figures? Into over 100,000?
Well, look, am I concerned? Of course I'm concerned. Everyone should be concerned about that. But I'm one who refuses to sacrifice somehow the moral high ground here. And we have many people are saying, well, look, we have a Sophie's choice. We either have to put 28 million Americans into unemployment lines and destroy the lives of millions of people by putting them on unemployment or business bankruptcies. And then we're talking about people who spent their whole life and their whole life savings building up a business, and then poof, within 3 weeks, it's gone. I just refuse to accept this Sophie's choice. We can reopen our economy in a safe and effective way. We have half of our economy open right now. It's the other half that's not. And we know from the businesses that are operating, the great businesses like FedEx that have 350,000 employees in the United States, and they've had very, very, very low rates of infection from coronavirus because they're using best practices. They're using masks. They're using social distancing.
No, some businesses definitely can. Now, of course, you are advising Donald Trump on the White House Council to reopen the country. Is he listening to your advice? Do you think he's going to agree with you about this hard May 1st deadline to reopen? Or is he going to listen to the scientists, the medical officers, Dr. Fauci, and the people who are much more conservative about when a reopening of the US society should take place?
By the way, just a couple points on that. Number one, there is no consensus among the health officials. We have a coalition of many. What?
That's for sure. They all disagree.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, that you get different opinions of different people. Dr. Fauci has been very, very, very cautious. I'm not a huge fan of his. He made a statement a few weeks ago that he said, I apologize for the inconvenience for people. Look, this is not an inconvenience. This is a tragedy for people that are suffering the most from this. So,
would you like to see Trump sack Dr. Fauci, because there has been a movement towards that?
I think it's so interesting. There's an old saying that if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So, the health people have great expertise in health, far more than I do. I am not a health expert. I want to be very straightforward about that. So they look at what do we do to optimize health outcomes. But, I'm an economist. I'm here to tell you, and Dr. Fauci is not an economist, that the damage we're doing to our society, we could have a Great Depression in this country if we don't get the economy reopened by, certainly if we go past June 1st, we will have a Great Depression, 2 or 3 years of very, very, very high unemployment with massive increases in poverty and all the, negative effects that has on families and workers. So there's no easy solution here. We need to do both. We need to get society up and running, and we have to use the best health practices. And you're right. Look, if we have a recurrence of this disease this summer or fall, it will be very, negative. It'll have a very damaging effect. So we have to make sure that doesn't happen. We need to move really forward quickly with testing. We need treatments. We would like to see a vaccine sometime in the next 6 to 9 months. But all I'm saying is this: the option of keeping our economy shut down for 6 or 8 weeks.
No, I understand.
Would lead to unthinkable misery.
I understand. Can we talk about these protests? You're in Maryland, I believe. There's been protests there. There's also been protests in North Dakota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, California. You've been very supportive of these liberty-loving, freedom-loving protesters. However, what about the concern, Stephen Moore, that they're not social distancing? They're all so close to one another. They're not listening to the government guidelines, so they could be passing coronavirus amongst themselves.
I am concerned about that, absolutely, and I do support the protests because I believe, in the United States we have a very rich tradition of a First Amendment right, of right of religion, right of free speech, and right of peaceful assembly. But one of the pieces of advice that I've been giving to these protesters, who have, I think, very legitimate grievances. These are people who've lost their livelihoods and lost their businesses, and or have been subject to abusive treatment by their own governments. The first piece of advice I've given to these folks is do the social distancing. Make sure you're wearing gloves and masks and not endangering your own health or the health of other people. I have to say that the media coverage of these has been very misleading. Has there been some instances of violations of social distancing? Yes. But in many of the other rallies, people are taking really smart, health practices in place for precisely that reason, to keep everyone safe.
Now, you compared these protesters to Rosa Parks, who is, of course, an American icon. She was the civil rights activist who very famously refused to give up her seat on a bus in Alabama in 1955 to a white man, and many credit her with the start of the civil rights movement in the US. Is it really right to compare these protesters to an icon like Rosa Parks?
I wasn't comparing, by the way, I wrote my senior thesis in college about civil disobedience and the great people who've affected social change and social justice and fought government abuse through civil disobedience. And that was certainly, and there's no one who exemplifies that greater than Rosa Parks. So I'm an incredible admirer of her. I wasn't comparing these people to Rosa Parks. I was saying she should be an inspiration to people these are people who've been abused by a government, lost their livelihoods, lost their jobs, lost their incomes, who are in desperate straits right now, and they have every right to protest. They should do it safely. The American people should listen to what they say. The left has thumbed their nose at these people. They say they don't even have a right. I mean, amazingly, a lot of people on the left don't even think they have a right to protest. That's how crazy it's gotten in the United States. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with these people. Everyone in the United States, at least, should agree that we all have civil liberties, and they should be, very vigilantly protected against the abuse of power of government.
Fascinating argument. That is Stephen Moore. He is an economic advisor to President Trump and conservative economist, and he is also on this White House Council about how to reopen the country.